The road to Scottish Summit starts here. This is the Power Platform Podcast. Join Rex de Koning, Ana Inés Urrutia de Sousa, and Paddy Byrne as they talk to the Microsoft community about their stories.
Welcome everyone to the Power Platform Podcast. It's always a thing to get that out right in once. Today we have our guests, Zoe Wilson and Matt Beard. And most of you probably know them from Scottish Summit, but today we're going to hear some more about them. My name is Rex de Koning. I'm one of the hosts.
Yeah, I am Paddy Byrne. I'm a co-host of the Scottish Summit. No, I got it wrong. We were doing so well. I was just about to make a joke about how we always get the name wrong. It's the Power Platform Podcast, and it's the Road to Scottish Summit series within the Power Platform Podcast. And here's me ruined everything. So yeah, we're here with the cream of the crop. I've always Scottish Summit for a while. Zoe and Matt, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi everyone, thanks for having us on the show. So I'm Zoe Wilson. Like you said, I've been involved in Scottish Summit for the last few years. In my day job, I work at Avanade, where I'm an exec in our global modern workplace business. So heavily involved in all of the co-pilot madness for my sins. But doing lots of community stuff as well outside of that. So I host a co-pilot podcast, obviously part of the Scottish Summit team, run a new speakers workshop as well, which I know you attended last year, Rex. So really focusing on trying to develop that new pipeline of speakers for the community.
Matt Beard. I've been development team leader at the moment at Data 8. I'm my 11th year now there, so I've been there for a fair whack of time. Enjoying all stuff, Power Platform, Dynamics, all that sort of stuff. And then, Scottish Summit. I also run the London user group and do all sorts of things. And I'm a terrible yes man, so I end up doing all sorts of things with all sorts of people.
Sounds brilliant. Really involved in the community, and we'll dig into a bit more of those roles later. But first, we've got icebreaker for you that we came up with this spot. We decided just to make us feel at ease, because we all get nervous on these podcasts. So Zoe, I'm going to start with you. We know that you are a cat lover, right? So can you list your top 3 fictional felines and why?
Gosh, that's a really hard question. I don't even know if I know 3 fictional felines.
Top. I'm struggling for 1.
Yeah.
You must know. You must have grown up watching cartoons as a kid.
Yeah, but I was always more interested in actually having a physical cat there rather than cats in TV shows and films and things like that. I'm really struggling. I think the Cheshire Cat is probably one of the only ones that I can actually think of.
I like no mine. One of mine might not count because I don't know. You can decide. I love Top Cat. Top Cat was my favorite cat. Yeah.
Tom from Tom and Jerry.
Tom from Tom and Jerry is a good one. Yeah. I can't remember what my other one is now. I did have one that sprung to mind just before we started this because I came up with the question and now I can't remember. The other one that might not count is Catwoman because I love Catwoman. She's cool.
Yeah, I don't think that counts.
What? No, those sort of cat.
Yeah,
stretch.
Sylvester from Tweety.
Yeah, she's not really fluffy with claws. I think the tight leather probably has something to do with that.
The other one that just sprung to mind, but it's not even a cat. I was going to say Pepe Le Pew. Do you remember Pepe Le Pew? He's not a cat, is he? He falls in love with a cat. So that's probably the most difficult question you're going to be asked all night, thankfully. Matt, very similar question, except I'm going to ask you, because we're wrestling fans, so yours one's easy. So a similar question, your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers.
Oh, Jesus. My Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers. I love the really obscure people. I like Sting, but I like obscure. I like Daniel Bryan. But so I was old school. I love TNA, so I could go all TNA. So AJ Styles.
Yep, he's on mine.
Also, Mankind. I loved Mankind when I was a kid. The amount of times I put a sock on my hand, that sounds weird out of context. The amount of times I put a sock on my hand for wrestling. is a lot. So yeah, there you go. Mankind. In fact, I'll just put all 4 faces of Foley on there.
That's a good one. That's really good.
So there you go. There's my Rushmore. Mankind, Dude Love, Cactus Jack, and Mick Foley.
Good. So when you played wrestling, you ran off and got a sock and put it in your hand to play wrestling, did you?
Yeah. And he used to make a little belt. He used to make championship belts out of cardboard and all sorts.
Yeah, so we did that when we were kids as well. Cardboard belt.
Yeah, it was great.
See, I was a wrestling fan, but I never done a cardboard belt.
You've not lived.
I'll make you one for Aberdeen. You can have it in Aberdeen. I'll bring you one.
Yeah, if someone gets me a cardboard belt, I'll wear it. I'll wear it all day until it falls off.
Sold.
Right, that's the most difficult questions out of the way. Rex, do you want to move on?
Yeah, well, both of you already said something about it in the intro. But during the day, you're busy with all kind of stuff, professionally and in the community. Can you both explain a little what you do professionally and also what you do for the community?
I'll let you go first, Matt.
Let me go first. So professional-wise, I started as a full-stack developer, and we found a disk that said Dynamic CRM in the office as part of the Partner Center pack. So we installed it, and then we started to enjoy it. And then I started to go to user groups. And 11 years later in my role now, I sort of mainly head up that whole side of it all now. We've done well. What time are we on? 10 minutes in. We've not said the C word yet. Oh, no, in fact, Zoe said it before. So I've been doing a lot more with Copilot stuff recently. I've been working with Microsoft to get some stuff doing. So the time recording, there's all sorts of build announcements coming and dropping, and some of the stuff that I was working on was announced overnight, which is nice. So it's nice to see the things that I've been working on come to fruition.
It's interesting that role you're in, but at Data 8, even people who aren't involved in the community or follow the community seem to know who you are because you've spoke to them through Data 8, through a professional engagement at some point. Everybody I know who works in the industry in Dynamics, it's like, oh, Matt Baird, yeah, I know him because I spoke to him because we're looking at putting Data 8 or something like Data 8 solution into their implementation.
Yeah, so it's strange to get in. I have a conversation that I either get known from Data 8, from Scottish Summit, or from the London User Group. And then when I go to a meeting about one of the other 3, they know me from the other one. So, yeah, it keeps me busy. And
Zoe, what about yourself?
So, like I said earlier, working as a global practice lead at Avanade in our modern work business. So technically, I came up through the SharePoint side. I started when I left uni in kind of IT support, and then back in my early 20s in Leeds, there weren't many women who worked in IT. So when I came across SharePoint, it was really good because it gave me an opportunity to get outside of IT and go and talk to the business. And that's where I've really sat through my career, at that kind of intersection of what technology can do and the business problems that it solves. And then about 8 years ago, I moved into more first team lead and then more leadership type roles. So the role that I have at the moment is really broad because as a practice lead, I'm looking after our go-to-market strategy, our alignment with Microsoft, lots of client-facing activities. For the last year, I've been leading our global Copilot go-to-market. So I got Copilot before the early access program started for M365 and really pushing in all countries that Avanade operates in to be able to help our clients on that journey. So it's been a pretty full-on year, to be honest. And I often joke that, for people who are using Copilot as an end user, it can help make them more productive, but it is the one thing that is solely responsible for shafting any semblance of work-life balance that I have.
Yeah, you don't get more time to yourself if you start selling Copilot.
No, it's been absolutely crazy, to be honest. But it's been good to have the opportunity to be, really at the forefront of that at such a big company. And then alongside that, all the community stuff keeping me busy as well. So in the last year, we've run 2 of the new speaker workshops, and we've got another one that we're scheduling for later this year. I started the Copilot podcast with Kevin McDonnell, and that's not just from a modern work perspective, that's looking across all of the different Copilots. So that's been keeping us busy as well. And then obviously Scottish Summit that we did in Manchester last year, and then the road to Scottish Summit in Aberdeen this year. So lots going on both personally and professionally and community-wise.
I always feel busy until I speak to Zoe, and then she makes me realise that how much more spare time I've got.
Talking about Scottish Summit Manchester, we're going to dig into that. What's your highlight, or have you got any tales from Scottish Summit past? I'm just imagining Manchester would play a big part in those highlights. But can you tell us more about what your highlights from previous Scottish Summits have been?
So I think for me, one of the highlights for Scottish Summit last year was seeing how much people contributed to the food bank. I know this isn't like an event specific thing, but it was just so heartwarming, both to see how much money we actually raised for the charity of the event, but to see how much people actually brought for the food bank was really heartwarming. And it's just a sign of how giving our tech community is.
And showing that it's not only a tech community, but a real community also, just for the people not involved in the tech community, but also for the people who need help. And because last year, all the stuff that was donated, I'm not sure if Matt needed new springs for his car after that, but I can imagine he did.
That's something that hasn't come up on this series so far, actually, the alignment with charitable causes that Scottish Summit has, because every Scottish Summit since its conception has been aligned with charity. Now it's a registered charity, Scottish Summit. I don't know the stats on previous charities and how much funds they've raised, but that's something for our listeners who don't know Scottish Summit. It's not just about tech, it's about giving back to the community, and normally the local community as well, that hosts the event.
Yeah, so one of the things that you won't see is the amount of forms that me, Zoe, marketing have filled out to make the company get a registered status and make it do all its thing and do it all properly. We're trying to do it in as many ways as we can, and I think that is the right way of doing it. And to piggyback on Zoe's point, particularly around Manchester, so for me, biased about the fact that it was a little more local, I thought that Manchester venue was an incredible venue. And one of the things that I think was a testament to how good the Manchester event was how much the venue people themselves liked the event. We were the biggest event they've ever ran there. They got the best feedback from an event they've got there for a long time. They liked the event so much that they sponsored it. I don't think I've ever heard of a venue sponsoring an event in their own building at the same time. And then the amount of marketing stuff that me and Zoe recorded for them that I still haven't seen back yet, so I'm sure it's on their website somewhere. We did all sorts of marketing materials for them because they had a really positive community vibe from the whole day. It was less of a corporate event and more of a community event, and that was reflected, I think, in the feedback from the community, from the organisers of the actual venue, which was nice.
I mean, yeah, it was a fantastic event. You should be really, really proud. How did that come about? Because I remember when it first got announced that Scottish Summit would be on tour, it was like, what, on tour on Manchester? How did you get involved? Because you guys, you really took the reins, didn't you, of that event?
How did it start? So the on tour concept has been around for a while. So I've forced my way into Scottish Summit over the years. So 2019 I attended. 2020 I wrote all the app and did everything for the 2020 event, and then I got COVID the week before COVID was a thing, so I didn't attend because I was already really ill. And then obviously went virtual and sort of snowballed into what it is today. And when the announcement went out, I recorded marketing and doing the announcement saying that they're not coming back, and that was genuinely the truth. There was no intentions on taking. There was every intention on taking a break. But in the background, there had been this idea of an on-tour thing ticking on for a while. There'd been ideas in the past that we might run one in Canada, run one in different areas, and then some conversations happened, and we got in touch with the U92 venue, and we just started to sit there and thought, well, we've got an idea to resurrect that brand that we'd sort of kicked around a little bit for a while. It was a bit more local for Zoe and I. It took the pressure off marketing and to take their foot off the gas a little bit and let us take over a little bit more. And I'll admit, but when they started it, I'd likened it more to a user group than an event just based on size. But as you realise how popular it got and how big the venue was, actually, I think it became an event and not a user group thing, which was pleasing.
Was there that moment where you just thought, "Oh no, this is getting too big"?
No. The only feeling I ever get was, "Oh no, this is more people to not turn up on the day."
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found really impressive was just how quickly it all came together as well, because the event in Aberdeen this year, planning for that started last year. So actually more than a year before the event, whereas what was it, Matt, like 5-6 months, something like that, to turn around the On Tour event, which is just phenomenal. And I love the focus that we had on new speakers. So more new speakers at an event than we'd had before. Lots of people co-speaking, which was just great. And there were so many people who were relatively new into the community who got involved as a volunteer, and just everybody just getting on board and really making it successful, which was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And considering it was in the summer in an August event, which there is no events in August, and there's probably a reason for that. And the cricket was on the same day, the United were playing the same day.
Yeah, across the road.
There was literally anything that could have been in our way that day did come in our way that day, and I still think it went particularly well. So,
and I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't ask, but you can tell me where to go. Are there any plans for Scottish Summit to go on tour again? It's going to Scottish Summit Power Platform podcast exclusive. No,
right. So right now there isn't. Honestly, 24 is every bit of strength that I've got to get through to that. then I'll cross that bridge. I, from a personal perspective, would love to run at U92 again.
Yeah, I think the venue is fantastic. And next year we start alternating with South Coast Summit. So whilst it's not something we talked about, you could potentially see an on tour event. But I think that the team just needs to get through past October and then see how everyone's feeling.
Yeah.
We'll take that as a maybe. There you go, listeners. There's our exclusive. There might be something.
Yes. It's not a no. There's my official answer.
Yeah. One other thing I'd add about kind of Scottish Summit Past as well. So I was like a year behind Matt in the way that I got involved in it. So 2020, it wasn't my first in-person speaking event. It was only my second though. But compared to the event that I did the year before, I found the community aspect of it and the social aspect so welcoming and inclusive. So I class it as my first real introduction into the power of community. And then in 2021, when we had to do the virtual event, that was the first year I got involved as a volunteer, and then just got kind of more and more involved every year, because just the whole ethos and that focus on inclusion and accessibility and diversity, and the focus on new speakers, and the fact that it's not siloed either. It's not a collaboration or modern work event. It's not a biz apps event. It's everything and everybody coming together, which is what I think makes it really powerful.
Absolutely. And we've talked to multiple persons in the podcast up till now, and basically they all say the same: the love for the community, the diversity, the inclusiveness. And that's something that you do not see. Well, you start seeing it more and more, luckily. But Scottish Summit really was one of the front runners in that, and it's still the pillar that everything is built on, basically.
Absolutely. It's a bit like a gateway drug. I don't know if that's the right appropriate term, but it gets you sucked into the bigger, wider community, doesn't it? It seems to be like that.
I think that goes for every one of us here. We all started like that. So. All right. So we talked about Scottish Summit, the past of Scottish Summit, the tales. You're also doing things for Scottish Summit this year. What are the types of roles and things that you are doing for this year's edition?
Bit of everything, I think. A bit of everything, and then also just making sure the things are ticking on. Just keeping it all going. With being the safe space for some people to try and thrash out our ideas, and we'll sort of we'll try and build together what it's going to be first before we put it onto like the wider organising community. There's me, Mark, Zoe, Ian as the core four. We'll try and shape what it's going to be, and then widen it out. I've tried to take a step back from this one. I'm terrible for if something needs doing, I'll just do it. So I'm trying to take a step back. So admittedly, I think actual hands on the keyboard for this event, I've probably done less than years past, but there's been more of a mental change in that and a processing of making sure other people are helping that whole process still tick along. I'm not sure why we had the wise idea to rebuild the entire event management system from scratch in Dynamics. So that's been fun and eventful. And I think a lot of our time is on support tickets and why isn't that stuff working? But again, I think we're planting the seeds for this stuff working again in the future. The app will return this year. So the app we didn't have an app for 2023 on tour. But we'll get a full on iOS and Android app this year again. So that whole process needs building, but thankfully, because I built it all last year, it's all still there. So we will see. I suspect for Zoe and I, speaking on behalf of you, correct me if I'm wrong, that our to-dos are going to rapidly ramp up exponentially over the next few weeks and months.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I'd describe it almost as a stakeout that we're on. So there's kind of the Scottish Summit stakeout, which is the four of us, and then we're actually surrounded by a really good team of volunteers who are picking up some of the tasks that have needed doing to date. But as the event gets closer, I think the load on us will become a lot higher. Although the event last year was only one day, that day was incredibly full on for all of us, like running around and problem solving. And when we actually get to Aberdeen this time, because it's over multiple days, I think the amount of coordination and work needed to keep it running smoothly will mean that we're both incredibly busy for that time.
Yeah.
So I was talking about your involvement. What are you looking forward to most about the next installment of Scottish Summit in 2024?
You cannot say, by the way, that it's over.
Yeah, that's the forbidden answer. You can't say I can't wait till it's over.
Yeah. So the venue for me. So because this venue is up in Aberdeen, I don't think you've been to see it either, Matt. But I've not been able to actually go see this in person. Whereas Mark and Ian have both been to visit. But everything that I've seen from the venue just looks absolutely incredible. I think it's going to be such a fantastic place for the event, and I can't wait to see Scottish Summit in a much bigger and better venue than we've had previously in Scotland.
Yeah, I've seen it on there on videos and on FaceTime. That's what the height of where I've seen it. I am looking forward to Scott Hanselman.
Oh wow, yeah.
The one thing that probably has always stuck with me most in keynotes, Manchester side, because we didn't do one, is that they've always been different and unique and sort of a bit special. Was it Connell that did the one in last year? I mean, that's for me, that's in my top three of any event I've ever attended. The only reason that it soured it for me was that me and Janet had to go on stage straight after him and say thanks for doing it, and I was absolutely terrified. But those keynotes are just on another level. And what I guess the thing that you don't see, so you saw the announcement that Scott Hansen was coming. We had worked on getting Scott across here for such a long period of time. So I'd be excited to see him here and see him present in our event. I've seen him present in other places, a PPC, and I saw him in Florida and things like that. But it's sort of our event, my event, and he's there for us and representing what we're doing. That excites me quite a lot. So I'm looking forward to that.
The sheer amount of people in that keynote room as well is going to be just outstanding, isn't it? It's going to take your breath away to see the amount of people in that huge keynote room.
Hopefully.
Yes. But there's loads of buzz going around at Scottish Summit. That's one thing that Scottish Summit always do well, as the social buzz around it, leading up to it and on the day of it. So I'm sure it'll be fine. So just that's all the questions we've got for you today. Is there any, Matt, do you want to tell us where we can contact you, where we can reach you, where we can read your blog articles, where we can find out what you're doing, or do you want to keep that secret?
I mean, you can read my blog articles from 12 months ago. That's probably about the height of weather at this point. Do you know what? LinkedIn recently, since Twitter moved to X and they changed the algorithm, I find it very hard to get on with Twitter anymore. So I'm on there and I'll read it, but less occasionally. LinkedIn, either via the Scottish Summit page or I won't be hard to find on LinkedIn. It's probably my best route to find me at this point.
Awesome. And Zoe?
Yeah, LinkedIn as well. So either LinkedIn or Twitter. I still use it a little bit, but not as much as I used to. And then if you're interested in Copilot, head over to copilotconnection.com as well and sign up for the podcast.
Awesome. Rex, what about Scottish Summit? Where can we get tickets? When is it?
Before we go to that part, is there anything else that you want to talk about Scottish Summit? Want to mention something, or now's your chance?
Just a huge shout out to everybody. Like, get your ticket, come along. It's always a great event. If you're not someone who normally goes to these events, Scottish Summit is such a great first event to go to because it's so welcoming and friendly and inclusive, and there's going to be tons of great content. So yeah, sign up now.
Yeah, so I've seen the agenda mostly. I saw some of the sessions of it's shaping up incredibly. I know we've not officially announced it yet, so I think we're finalising the final few things on it, but the stuff that's there, it's going to be amazing. I would suggest as soon as keep your eye on socials for when you get the app. We're going to try to do some sort of pre-event app stuff so you can keep in touch and get excited for it before it starts. And if anybody's listening is interested in any sponsorship as well, that's always a thing that we'll always have a conversation about. So feel free to reach out about any sponsorship at any point at all, and we can send you what we've got.
All right, thank you very much. And talking about the tickets, for the people watching, the URL is on screen. It's scottishsummit.com/tickets. We have tickets there for the general event. There's tickets for the pub quiz. There's tickets for a drag show. And don't forget about the workshops that are there on the 17th of October. There are also still tickets available for that. If you want to be on the podcast, you can go to scottishsummit.com/podcast and sign up the form, and we can invite you in on the podcast so you can join this wonderful setting. And last but not least, if you want to volunteer, that's also still an option. You can go to scottishsummit.com/volunteer-with-us. And hopefully we'll see you all in Aberdeen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us.
The road to Scottish Summit starts here. This is the Power Platform Podcast. Join Rex de Koning, Ana Inés Urrutia de Sousa, and Paddy Byrne as they talk to the Microsoft community about their stories.